Work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers, a list of dates annually indicating that this work session regular meeting would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, May 28th, 2013. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by Councilman Brian Regan.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. O God, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, hear our prayers, and through your infinite love and mercy, graciously grant us the strength and power in our thoughts and decisions to be for the benefit of all people at all time. And as we are on Tuesday after Memorial Day, please keep and remember in your prayers all members of our services, armed services, and their family members. Amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, please call the roll of the council.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois.
Here.
Councilman Kramer.
Here.
Mayor Levine.
Here.
Councilman Prasad.
Here.
Councilman Regan.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Councilman Vasanella. Councilman Wright.
Okay, thank you. I believe Councilman Vasanella and Councilman Wright said they would probably arrive in a little bit. So we're following along on our agenda. They're over here by our clerk, Ms. McCarthy. You can follow along. There's associated resolutions and ordinances. Please feel free to help yourself at any time. We are now at item number 5. Deputy Mayor Rosalind Sherman.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make one suggestion for the agenda, please. Since our financial consultant, I forgot what to call you, Andy, has to leave. Andy. Since Andy has to leave early, I would like to ask that we change the agenda and put the budget before the item having to do with the robotics. Hopefully, it won't take that very long and we don't cause too much of a delay. But because of time constraint, we need to take care of the budget issue before we do the demonstration. So I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, so the motion is to move item number 6, which is regarding our municipal budget, to immediately and then continue on with the agenda in respect of various certain people. Okay, is there a second?
Seconded.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. There's a motion to amend the agenda, so we're going to do our budget now and then come back to item number 5, commendations, proclamations, in particular, Franklin High School Robotics Club, and then continue with the meeting at that point. So at this point, we're at item number 6, our calendar year 2013 municipal budget. Last week, we had the hearing on the budget, last meeting rather, so we won't have a public hearing on it at this point. What we have is items A, B, and C. First is authorizing an amendment to the budget, and then adopting the the budget itself, and if there's any issue with item B, adopting the budget. Then we'll go to item C, a temporary budget. If we do pass the budget, then we won't need item number 3. So either Ms. Karana or Mr. Hodgelik, do you want to brief us on item number 1? Or Mr. Vornlocker, whomever wants to do that? Which is a change to, a slight amendment to the budget, which was passed originally.
Yes,
Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure if it's on. It's not on.
Hello? Okay.
Okay.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The amendment that you have before you was based on the review of the budget by the state. They've asked us to include two grants into the current year 13 budget. One is the Clean Communities Grant for $115,000. The other grant is a body armor grant for $8,800. It gives you the spending authority for 2013. The other item, which involves the water utility budget, is we actually anticipated a bit too much of the fund balance in the water utility as a revenue item, and based on their review, they said it was not appropriate, so we needed to back off that, and we're actually taking some water utility capital fund balance to offset that revenue change. So it's a wash between the operating utility fund balance and the water utility capital fund balance to make up for the difference. What we have is actually an amount in the reserve 2012 for approximately the same amount, so if we need that capital money over in the capital fund in 14, we can move that money back over there next year. And that's the sum and substance of the amendment.
Okay, so understand there's no net gain in expenditure or revenue?
That's correct.
Just shuffling things. Okay, thank you. So as, this is Resolution 13-252 to authorize this amendment, calendar year 2013 municipal budget. If we make these changes, it's minor enough, as I understand it, that we don't have to reintroduce. That's correct? Okay, thank you. So is there a motion for Resolution 13-252 to amend the calendar year 2013 municipal budget as outlined by Mr. Hodulek?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 6A, Resolution 13-252, authorize amendments to CY 2013 municipal budget, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have item 6B, or 6.2 as it's listed, Resolution 13-253. This is authorize the adoption of our calendar year 2013 municipal budget. We held several public hearings on this where we spoke to department heads over several days. All of those were, of course, open to the public, like all of our meetings, and they were televised also. And, of course, the minutes and the DVDs were available to the public, anyone who wanted to see that. If we pass this in force, as I said before, then we won't go to item number 3, which is amending a temporary budget. If any changes or we have to, then we'll go to item number 3. So, Resolution 13-253, authorize adoption of calendar year 2013 municipal budget. Is there a discussion or motion for the budget?
Motion for passage.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
That's the two.
Oh,
That's
you're not
not
showing
the
us?
budget.
I can talk about the budget, I was going to talk about it later.
Oh, I can,
No,
you don't
that-
have to know.
no, that's
If you
fine.
wanna skip
If
over
you
it.
want to, can you bring me the cord for the, thank you. All eyes were upon me, so I was,
Oh, no, I didn't.
no, I was
I just
debating
waited.
whether to talk about it now or later, so I guess now.
It doesn't need to.
And- Here we are. So I have a PowerPoint, and if the videographer is probably already over there, the PowerPoint is aptly named Budget. Okay, so this is a look at the budget over the past 5 years, starting in 2009, and you'll notice we go from FY to CY, so financial year to calendar year, in the middle of there. And because of that, some unusual things happen in FY 2011. But the real points to pay attention to are the first and last point. And what you can see here is that our budget is actually lower now than it was in 2009. So I will pat council on its back for the hard work that it's taken to do that. We've done that despite the red line, which shows a decrease in state aid. So we've lost about $1 million, $1.5 million in state aid. And here, just so you can compare it, I've taken the budget and I've subtracted 50 million from it, just so that it comes down to the same level as the rest of these numbers, and you can see, you can compare them. At the same time that we were able to decrease the budget, you can see that pensions plus health care increased by about $1.5 million. And we decreased our operating budget, which is the part of the budget that we have some control over. There's a lot of our budget that we can't control, but this is the part of the budget that we have the most control over. And that went from about, I think it was 42.6 to now being just over 42. So we've had a decrease in our operating budget over the 5 years. And if you take out health care and pensions, which are things we have very limited control over, we went from 34 to $32 million. So we've decreased the part of the budget we have the greatest control over by $2 million. That's the good news. The bad news is that the levy has increased, and I want to explain why. In 5 years, the levy went from 25.9 million to 32.1 million. That's a 24% increase, 24% over 5 years. But if you take out pension, health, and state aid, which are things we had no control over, that's a 13% increase. If you take that yearly, that's 3.2% per year. Now, I notice that Mr. Schaefer's in the room, and he has commented on how I might divide out certain figures, but I think we all think in percent per year, and you can compare that to the cap that we are, that I've often called a scam of Trenton's, of 2%. So we have been going over that 2%. Now remember, much of this was, the 2%'s only been around a couple of years, so 3 of these years were without the 2%. So why if we're cutting, I'll go back up here, we're cutting our budget, we're cutting our operating expenses, why are taxes going up? And this slide answers why. Here you see that budget minus $50 million, just so you can compare it. Here is the state aid that's been decreased. And here is the fund balance. The fund balance, the surplus, that thing that I keep talking about that we're bleeding away, that's going away, that, you know, we're going to hit rock bottom in 2017. It was 2012, but we've extended it out to 2017. It used to be we used about $14 million a year, at least that was in fiscal year 2009. Now, that's what we use throughout the year. Then we regenerate that fund by collecting from taxes, et cetera. So it's not like we're bleeding at $14 million a year. We were bleeding at, you know, $3 to $5 million a year back then. But that's how much we were spending out of the fund balance, and you can see over the years, we've brought that down to about $7 million. And the reason is because we just can't spend our bank account away. And the decision basically was by council since I've been on council. That second dot is when I came on council, the 2010. The decision since then was we needed to stop bleeding down that surplus because we would run out of bank account money, and we needed to increase taxes in order to pay the bills. Because we could live on the what you might call the chocolate cake diet of we'd still have spending, but we were going to cut taxes. That would be like you lose weight while you eat chocolate cake. We could do that, but at the end, when we ran out of money, things would get horrible. We would increase taxes, I'm just going to say a number, 15%. I don't know how much we would have to increase taxes, but it would be an enormous amount. So that's why taxes have gone up. I think it's important to see we've done everything we can on the operations side to cut spending, to minimize the amount that taxes have gone up. So I think that was my last slide. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, are there any adjustments or discussion on the budget? Okay, I'll put my discussion and adjustment. It's just, there was a good analysis, just as far as I go. I know the council is working to balance the operating expense versus the operating revenue, but the operating expense still exceeds the operating revenue, so I feel like we've got to cut back on spending, hurtful as that might be in certain areas. So I'm going to propose, as I did during the introduction, a motion to change our road paving program from $2.5 million to $1.0 million.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Kramer.
So last time you made that motion, I was thinking as a parliamentarian and not as a fellow statesman. And I said, well, if I don't second that motion, then it drops right there. But I had made a promise to you long ago, because you were the only Republican on council, that I would second any motion you made if no one else did. So I apologize for not seconding it then, and I will second it now so that you will have the opportunity to discuss your thoughts.
All right.
So that was a second.
Thank you. And that's kind of you, appreciate it. You said fellow statesman. I don't know if that's a hat I wear, like the John Clydes and Bob Metlers of the world, but thank you. And appreciate it. So that's all. I just kind of said it succinctly. So I have no other discussion on it unless someone else does. Okay.
Well,
Oh, Councilman Kramer, go ahead.
sounds like time for a PowerPoint. So this is, this will be quick. Let me get back up here, and videographer, I assume you know my shtick by now, so you're up there, and curiously, this is named the Road Resurfacing Revisited. And by the way, I hand all of these PowerPoints into our master clerk at the end of meetings, so you can get them and criticize them to your heart's desire. Okay, so what I have, through my research, determined that we have $7.8 million of roads that need to be paved right now. The mayor proposes to do $1 million a year, and he's an accountant, so I guess he would probably confirm that that would be 7.8 million, 7.8 years in order to do that. Am I correct, Mr. Mayor?
Before or after tax?
Okay. And then, and others of us are proposing 2.5 million per year, so that would be about 3.1 years. So very quickly, I had pointed out Bort Road in 2009 was considered grade A. I've renumbered the numbering system. So it's best condition, normal maintenance was required, pavement is in good condition with frequent slight cracking. Rideability is good with few slightly uneven sections. And then this is a picture of Bort Road today. So that was a 2009 study, a road in the best condition, and that's where we are today. We can look at, someone might say we could patch those roads instead of pave them. So I asked Mr. Zelnick in 2012, and you can see the manager is CC'd on that. In 2012, how much did it cost for us to do patching? And according to him, it was roughly $190,000 was spent on asphalt. 752 man-hours were spent on patching potholes, and almost 5,000 hours were spent on road repairs. So that was other than the pothole patching, sometimes more road repair was needed. So a total man-hours of 5,700 man-hours, or just under 3 employees, 3 employee years. That's 190,000 in materials, 142,000 in labor costs, if we assume 50,000 per person, overtime, and, pension, et cetera. I don't know what the equipment costs, so that would be $350,000 we spent on that. So you're always going to have to do some road repair, so, $350,000 per year, maybe that's what we would save if our roads didn't need repairing, or even $250,000 a year that we are, in my mind, wasting patching holes. Because if they weren't repairing roads like that, they could be doing something like when there's a crack in a road, putting a little bit of sealant on that. That costs a lot less, and that lets the road last a lot longer. There are other costs to poor roads. So there was a study in 2010 by the, I think these are the leaders, the government leaders in roads. I forget what the name of them are, what the name is of the group. But this is a government study, and it showed that deferred maintenance costs taxpayers more in the long term. According to, this is at the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, reconstructing a road after 25 years can cost more than 3 times the amount necessary to preserve the road in good condition over that same period. So that would be 3 times the cost. In that same study, they looked at costs per year, operating costs to the vehicle owner in various states, and look who's up on top. It is estimated that the operating costs of a vehicle in New Jersey, due to the poor roads in New Jersey, and obviously if we fix our roads, that's not going to help everybody's, people commute all over the place, so you're not going to save all that money. But it's almost $600 in New Jersey that it costs people. The AAA said poor road conditions can add an extra $2,000 in maintenance costs for a car over its lifetime. So I believe having citizens drive on poor roads is an invisible tax. And that's why I think it's important that we pave our roads, don't let them sit around, keep them paved, because in the long run, it's going to save the town money, and it's also going to save taxpayers money. And I'd rather their money goes to paving new roads, or part of their money go to paving new roads, than go to the repair costs. And that's it.
Okay. Any other comments? No, I'll just say, Councilwoman.
Just a quick one. I remember reading somewhere that the major sense of satisfaction with regard to residents is having roads that are well repaired. You talk to people who live in Edison or some of the surrounding areas, and you hear horror stories about their roads. The complaints about, I pay my taxes and I don't get anything for it. Well, I have to say Franklin has taken a stance that I think is very responsible and very proactive with regard to maintaining that level of satisfaction within our community. And it may not be as attractive as cutting out some money, but in the long term, it's going to cost us all a lot more. And we are making sure that our residents are well taken care of.
Couple of
Okay,
points.
Councilman Chase and Councilman Prasad.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to say, yeah, I've driven on some roads in extremely bad shape in Edison. Part of the problem there is that they're roads that get a lot of truck traffic, but of course, they want the ratables that the trucks are going to, but they ought to be using some of that tax money to fix up those roads. I think we are doing a better job of keeping ahead of our problems. At the same time, we pay attention to timing considerations. For instance, we were considering repaving Randolph Road this year, but because the Summerfields development will be bringing a lot of things in by truck on that road, we think, well, let's wait until they finish bringing that stuff in so that we don't have to repave it again after, repave it now and repave it again after their trucks have beaten it up some more. And the same thing with Canal Road and the prospective trucks from the, taking away the dredge spoil from the dredging of the canal. But at the same time, there are stretches of road. There's a bit of Canal Road. I drive between Copper Mine and the Griggstown Causeway that has some potholes that I have to sort of detour around. Well, you get over the middle line of the road, that's a bit of a safety hazard. What are you going to do if there's somebody coming the other direction? So keeping our roads in good shape is a safety consideration as well as consideration for the good health of our vehicles and the general impression it makes on the public. And I know the last several years, Councilwoman Sherman and I have driven around all of the roads that the Public Works Department has recommended for possible repaving and made our judgments as to which ones were the worst. But they always have twice as much as we can repave, even at $2.5 million a year. So we try to select the worst to get them repaved and generally provide good roads for the public.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. A couple of points. The road conditions actually have a direct bearing on the quality of life in this town as well as the property values. If you have roads in disrepair, it impacts overall property values, so that's number one. So if we keep the infrastructure in good shape, which I think is our primary responsibility, to facilitate any ratables coming here. So in the long-term future of the town, this is important. Secondly, I think we all seem to have amnesia. At least I was on council when we had people from Cusset Street come here and place a piece of asphalt on this council desk. And they felt that they had been ignored and discriminated against. And especially in the 4th and 5th Ward, the roads were in abominable conditions. And those needed to be fixed, and that's where we tried to get more and more funds for road fixing, and the $1 million a year was just not doing it. So I've said my piece. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, and I'll just say my part of this. I think the satisfaction for the people, I think our people get satisfaction when we just assess them, less taxes. And there's many things I want in town, there's many things I want for home, but I can only afford so many of them. We say 2.5 million. If we made it 10 million for roads and triple the library budget, people would be very happy and satisfied, but the line always has to be drawn somewhere, and I respect if that's where you're drawing the line. This is where I'm saying it's the bottom line for me is, there's savings and theoretical and costs and everything. The simple bottom line for me is I want to spend less now so I can get my budget in balance as quickly as I can. Anything else?
But,
Oh, Councilman Kramer?
I mean, yes, anything in the future is theoretical, but these are way well drawn-out principles, that these roads are deteriorating. You saw what a grade A road did in 4 years, and these roads that are already need to be paved now, that was a road that didn't look like it needed to be paved. You want to wait almost 8 years. I think you will be costing us more money. I'm not doing this because it's nice. I think it is the cost-saving way to do it, and we can disagree on that, but I think in the long run, we will save money, and that's what, I don't go for the short-term gain. That may be what some politicians do. I strive to be that statesman, and I think that's what statesmen do, is go for the long-term savings. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councilman Prasad?
Mr. Mayor, it's great rhetoric that you want to cut the budget to road building, resurfacing budget down to $1 million. But when we press you for specifics as to which roads you would pave and which you wouldn't, you never come up with any response to that. It's like the sequester. You just want an across-the-board cut. We've got to get more specific, because these roads are deteriorating, and we've spent a lot of time and effort actually traveling these roads and doing the rating ourselves. So if you do have suggestions, we'd love to hear them.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
Councilman Regan?
Mr. Mayor, so the only thing I would just remind council of is, like last year when we talked about the road budget for the next 2 years, which this is the second of that there was a commitment we made to the Public Works Department and the Township Manager that we were doing 2.5 for each of 2 years. So even your concern about in the future, basically you're going back against a commitment this town council made last year to do that program, 2.5 for 2 years. So that's the only thing I would like to remind you about. I said my piece about what I thought about your vote against the entrance in the budget. When we did that, I am not going to replay that for political purposes or anything. I said my piece, but this was I forgot to mention that night that you seem to have forgotten about the 2-year agreement we had, 2.5 for 2 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, and then since these were some specific points, I was going to leave it. I answer over here. I never made a commitment. If you look last year, I had problems with the roads also.
Say what you want.
And I do not accept that this is rhetoric on my part. Like a lot of things we do in town, we say, this is the amount, and then we tell the staff to go implement it. If we say, I'm cutting this budget or that department, or you're cleaning, or anything else, we tell the staff, go implement it. If you want to sit down and go over it, I could, but frankly, I'm not as apt to, because I don't have the time or inclination to get in the nitty-gritty. That's why we have professionals for us. And I'll now have to go back in. I was glib when I was saying about being a statesman. I have been made very statesman-like ideas here through the years. When I was a second ward councilman, I put off major projects in my ward just because it would be saving of money and we could put them together. I don't question anyone else's statesmanship. So when you question mine, I have to come back with it. And I do think in the long term, I've done that all along, My record will show that time and time again. So, since it's going back and forth, I wanted to say that also. And the bottom line is, yes, this is short-term now, but I also think it's unnecessary. I can put anything out into the future and put statistics on it and say, this will save. This is the bottom line. My expenses exceed my income. If I do that at home, I get in trouble. If I do that in business, I get in trouble. The U.S. government's the only one who can do that because they push it off 2 generations and they don't really care, but everyone else has to play by the rules. So,
Mr. Mayor?
that's all. Councilman Kramer?
Yeah, I wasn't saying you weren't being statesman-like. I was trying to say I was trying to be statement-like. But you are wrong about we push it off to staff. We don't. You're on the Public Works Committee. You haven't gone to most meetings, but it is the Public Works Committee that decides which roads will be paved and not paved, not staff. That's our decision. And then the Public Works Committee recommends to all council, and council approves and disapproves that. So I think that's why Mr. Prasad was asking you to give specifics. That's what we're asked to do, and that's, you are wrong about, that's a staff decision. That is our decision. And, you know, I don't know how you do, no, never mind. That's it. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
the only thing, I don't want to keep going on. I'll just say I disagree that I'm wrong,
robotics.
because we can take that. Anyone else? Won't belabor. Okay. We're just voting now on the amendment. We haven't left that yet. So a yes vote means,
No, we're done, the amendment.
no, we never vote on it.
We didn't vote on it.
No, he made an amendment. He made an amendment, I seconded it. We
And
haven't
that's it.
voted on that.
Okay. So a yes vote means drop it to 1 million. A no vote means keep the budget as introduced and as we spoke. So please poll the council.
Yes, for being what?
Councilman Chase,
No.
Councilwoman Francois,
No.
Councilman Kramer,
No.
Mayor Levine,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
No.
Councilman Regan,
No.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
No.
Okay. So the motion doesn't pass, so now we go to the vote on the original budget, which has been moved and seconded, and we've gone over all that. Is there any discussion on the budget itself? This is item 6B, Resolution 13-253 on the agenda. If not, Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on Resolution 13-253, authorize adoption of calendar year 2013 municipal budget, please.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Kramer,
Yes.
Mayor Levine,
No.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilman Regan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries. That is the budget for this fiscal year. And one quick thing, in case you're wondering, it's calendar year 2013. New Jersey is fairly unique. Municipalities cannot adopt their budget till they're in the middle of their budget year. Go speak to the state legislature. Everyone else does it beforehand, but that's our unique process. Okay, because the budget passed, we do not need item number 6C, Resolution 13-254, which if we didn't pass the budget, we would have passed a temporary budget just so we can operate, but since the budget was passed, we no longer need that. So, that's the end of our budget. Now we come back to item number 5, which was our general commendations and proclamations. We have our Franklin High School Robotics Club demonstration and commendation, originally requested by Councilman Carl Wright, who I guess was held up. So,
He had work-related issues.
okay. So, I get, Deputy Mayor, you want to join me since?
Maybe
I
one
just
of his
killed
subjects sat up.
Work-related work's getting this way.
I guess we'll go to this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, do you want to
Shall I read? So we have a commendation, and I just wanted to apologize for the length of the delay. You've been very patient, and I'm sure we're going to all be very impressed with what you guys have done. So, whereas the Township of Franklin wishes to recognize the talent and hard work exemplified by the students' advisors and students who have participated in the first for inspiration and recognition of science and technologies robotics challenge. Those who will be recognized, I'll read off their names: Daniel Edelman, Rakesh Chamala, Joshua Gonzalez, Ronnie Martinez, Nahar Patel, Philip Steinberg, Elizabeth Ebeling, she is the advisor, Raul Bampana, Kevin Chan, Sean Maggio, Sabadaman Pached, Tarun Ramjatan, Forrest Smith, Jeffrey Goet, who is also an advisor. And I apologize for any names I might have chopped up in the process. Whereas these talented young students have competed with many other students and have shown their love of science and their tireless pursuit of ingenuity and scholarship. Now, therefore, we, Brian D. Levine, Mayor, and I am standing in for Councilman Carl Wright of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, and on behalf of the Township Council and the citizens of Franklin Township, hereby commend all participants in the first robotics challenge and wish them success in all of their future endeavors. Congratulations, and thank you so much for being here. So did you have some, did you want to speak? Just one. Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks to Ms. Eibling, Mr. Goet, did I pronounce that? Mr. Get, sorry. Teachers in Franklin High School and our Franklin High School students in the robotics club, and Board of Ed VP, Ms. Avanage, here to support, former president, that's very kind of you. Also, they're going to give us a demonstration, so we look forward to that. Thanks, and if you want to give us any intros, certainly do that.
Just very quick, the commendations need to be signed by Councilman Wright, and then we'll get them all to everybody, all right?
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Philip Pachade, and I'm here on the behalf of the Franklin High School Robotics Club, also known as Team 613, the Neo Warriors. Team overview. Team 613 competes in the U.S. First Robotics Competition League. In this league, there are many high schools from around the country, and they compete with their robots, and they compete for the ultimate prize. This year, the team expanded to include 15 new freshman members, including me, who came to many of our meetings. Preseason. Preseason lasts from September to December. During that time, many freshmen didn't know anything about robotics. They didn't know how to work a robotic, how to work a robot, how to build a robot, and didn't even know what a robot was. So the senior members of the team who are experienced train new members in handling a variety of tools and as well as basic techniques for building the robot. So this is the first preseason competition that we had. It's called Brunswick Eruption, and during that time we used our robot from last year. The robot shot basketballs in hoops, and that's how we scored points. These are pictures from last year's competition. Okay.
If it's gonna shoot something, I want it to shoot just straight. No curve. No curve. Yes, please. Should I dock? No.
We never time to build it.
Okay, so our official robotics season started at the Montgomery High School, and during that time we played the new game for the season, which was called Ultimate Ascent. Our robot was used to score points by throwing frisbees into the goals, and score points by climbing a jungle gym structure that's a pyramid.
All right, so I'm Miss Eibling, Elizabeth Eibling. I'm one of the advisors of Team 613. And so this year, we had a lot of incredible challenges. We had a number of fearless freshmen that joined this team this year. And they took over the building of our drivetrain. So you can see some of the preliminary building. So in the left frame, you're seeing a basic frame. So this was one of the first things they learned to do, is how do you build a basic frame for a drivetrain? And then how do you attach the wheels so that they don't bind up when they turn? So after they did this, they built both gearboxes that are on the drivetrain, attached them to our motors, and wired those motors into the electrical system through the circuit breakers, and so that they could be computer controlled. So on the right, you see their test bed for the first drivetrain, which was then modified to the current design. All right, while our freshmen were engaged with the drivetrain, our more senior members of the team took on the challenge of how to lift a 120-pound robot off the floor, consistently, elegantly, and quickly. So in their first design, they used a 3 Acme screw system that had a shelf that extended. Later, they then simplified the design to a single Acme screw. All right, go ahead. All right, so while our freshmen, many of which were engaged in the drivetrain, and a lot of our seniors were engaged with the lift mechanism, we also have a sub-team that deals with building the field pieces. So on the right side, you see the pyramid that was built for testing the robot for this season. So that was the jungle gym type structure that it had to be able to climb. And we also had a team that worked with the Java programming. As good a machine as you can build, unless you have the computer controls for it, it is not going to go anywhere. So throughout the robotics competition season, we competed not only in the first competitions, but also Brunswick Eruption and Monty Madness in the spring. And I'm very pleased to say that the kids came home with the HOCO Award for entrepreneurship.
What are you looking for?
Here. Just go ahead. Sign. the signatures. Yeah, no, go ahead, sign them, sign them. Yeah, but we're gonna call them back in, give them, if you sign them.
What? That one.
Hello, everyone. I ran late because I had to do business, but I'm here right now, and I want to thank the robotics program for coming in and showing you what some of our kids are doing in Franklin High School. Sometimes people say, well, what do we have over there? How far are they going? Well, my son was on the robotics program, and he's down at NJIT right now. So it just goes to show you that if the kids actually put their mind to it and study with the program, they can move forward. Now, they do many things because I get the emails. So I know that they're everywhere making themselves better students. So I want to thank everyone. Have everyone clap for them because they're good. Come on over. Come on in. Come on in. And once again, I want to apologize for being late. Now, we have certificates for everyone, and this is one of those yearly things that I bring the students down here. Now, there are many students that are doing other things in Franklin High School, whether it be Spanish class, French class, math class. Everyone is doing something. And while this is not a BOE channel, I believe that since they're our kids and we're paying that tax dollar through your contributions, this is what you have right here. So once again, I want to thank you for coming. I have your certificates over here, and I have to sign them. So that way I can give them to you. Do you have something you want to say? Are you good? You're good? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing them to entertain you. Thank you. Now, y'all coming over here, and I got certificates for you. As soon as I finish signing.
Well, let me hand out the ones that are signed.
Okay.
This is, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll go down the Daniel Edlin. May I hand that to you? Rakesh Jamala. Do you want me to just give them to you? Now, I'd rather say congratulations to anyone. Joshua Gonzalez. Congratulations. Ronnie Martinez. Nahar Patel. Philip Steinberg. Congratulations. You guys are amazing. Elizabeth, that's you. We have one for you too. Raul Apana. Congratulations. Excellent job. Kevin Chan. Thank you. Sean Maggio. Congratulations. You hand out the last few.
That's where she's been.
You're doing a good job.
Okay. Sarvan Daman.
All right.
Congratulations. Good job. Tarun Ramagantan. Forrest Smith. Congratulations. Good job. And this is for another one of the advisors, Jeffrey.
Yeah, you know about him. He's running the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we have someone from the Board of Education You want to say something right quick, or you good to go? Eva Naj, she's here. She's here to support our kids. Former BOE member. Okay. Mrs. LaCourte. So, once again, y'all have a good day, and let me go up there and sit with the rest of these guys.
Okay, very good, thank you. And so now we're going to go back to our agenda, item number 7, the mayor's report. So my mug of this meeting has musical notes on it. Again, kind of stemming from our kids in the school. They had their band concert last week. A lot of the lower schools, meaning the middle school, elementary schools, had music concerts and dance programs, all from our kids in school. And the Franklin High School marching band has been invited and will attend this week to march down Main Street in Disney World, which they all did fundraising to do that, so it's not even coming out of your tax dollars, but that's a great honor for a kid's school. We're known for our arts. It's great, the staff, the faculty, the support, and the kids who do all of that is extremely impressive. And certainly, in this case, the band parents, all the parents who do those kinds of things in support also. So our meetings are generally the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. Exceptions are July and August and December. So in July and August, we only meet on the second Tuesday of the month. We do have a special meeting scheduled for the day after. This is being filmed, Alcoholic Beverage Commission on a liquor license. However, I'll take note, that's going to be discussed, as you can see, in executive session. And after that, so we're going to have to wait till the end of the meeting, we will know if we're actually going to be holding that hearing tomorrow, but that'll be, we'll come out and tell you that. I try and keep these things fairly universal, but just a couple local items. One that's local but has a large publication potentially was the Regency Heritage Nursing and Rehabilitation Center on DeMott Lane. They were at an event last week. Honored they let me speak and be a guest there, where they had a gathering of people from Somerset County who were 100 years old and older. And here's the universal part. They're submitting, they tried to, with Somerset County residents, break the world record for most 100-year-old plus people in one place at one time. The old record was 29. They think they shattered it at around 40, so they'll be hearing that, and you can read about Somerset in the next edition of Guinness Book of World Records, probably. Another good event was our Memorial Day Parade, which was held despite all obstacles. Thank you, Mr. LaCourte, for all the work that you did putting that together. I'm sure that's going to be mentioned soon also. Coming up is primary election day on June 4th. Obviously, if you're Democratic or Republican, you vote in your respective party. If you're unaffiliated, you can go to the polls that date and declare your party and vote at that point. At that point, you can stick with your party. You can change it at any point. Please note, on the last election, we're coming off of Superstorm Sandy, and polling places were changed. So your polling place, if you go in the primary, may be different than it was in November. Look at your sample ballot. It should all be going back to where it used to be before the storm. And that is all I have. So now we come to item number 8, Deputy Mayor's report. Deputy Mayor Rosalind Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm very happy to report I was away on vacation.
All right.
And just got back on Sunday, so other than saying I feel rested and I had a great vacation, that's the Deputy Mayor's report.
Excellent.
Okay. Oh, I expected to see, look, like, here's me on vacation.
Next time I'll bring the
Here's
pictures.
me in front of the hotel, okay.
I could do a PowerPoint for you.
Really, it's
All
not
right.
necessary.
Okay, thank you. So now we come to item number 9, public discussion. This is going to be the only time when public can speak about items of a general nature. Later on, I'll ask if anyone wants to speak on specific ordinances, but the only time to speak of items of a general nature, we're glad to hear what you have to say. And as is our policy, everyone during the public's discussion can come up once per meeting. We limit your time to 5 minutes per our policy so that we can hear from people and continue with the meeting. There will be a timer when you hear a tone go off. That will mean 3 minutes has elapsed. And then when multiple tones go off, that means your 5 minutes has elapsed. I'm going to ask you to wrap up your thoughts if you're not finished at that point. Please feel free to ask us questions, make your points. If we answer questions during your time, that's going to eat into it, so you might want us to answer afterwards unless it's very quick. When you come to the podium, please note we're being audio taped, videotaped on our cable access channel. Keep yourself about 3 or 4 inches from the microphone. That way we hear from you, and it's picked up on the audio appropriately. We don't yield time, so please tell us what's on your mind. All comments, questions are addressed to the council, and if any of us should answer, we'll so designate. So, again, council discussion, this is the time. Speak of anything on your mind, and again, we're glad to hear what's on your mind. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on any item of interest. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand. When I recognize you, come to the podium, give us your name and address, please. Mr. LaCourte.
Council, I hate using a teleprompter.
Oh, go right there.
Okay. I hate using a teleprompter, but my wife made me do this.
Who turned it on for you?
She did. Not me.
Do we know who this man is?
I have no idea.
You have to
Bob
give me a
LaCourte, 265
Okay.
South Middlebush Road here in Somerset. And I'm going to read this. You know, yesterday we had our Memorial Day parade, and I'd like to thank the following people who helped and really made the event yesterday, which was an absolutely spectacular day, weather-wise, crowd-wise, and everything. So that I'm going to everyone who participated or came out to watch the parade, especially those who stayed for the service, Kelly Stanton Cerrone, who sang the national anthem, and God Bless America. She was just fabulous. We had a junior ROTC. They were there with their battalion commander, Nick Volpe. Chaplain Tim Nossenbaumer, Point Community Church, who gave an invocation. Mayor Bryan and Captain Dr. Councilman Philip Kramer for their remarks. Francisco Fernandez of the Franklin High School Marching Band, who played taps. Anybody who heard that, I think there were quite a few tears in the audience. Veterans who raised the flags and laid the wreaths, especially Victor Stevens and DPW, who just did an absolute fabulous job of cleaning up the whole area. Am I supposed to put this down? Go this way? John Walker, who paid for the wreaths and the flowers and was furnished by Bruce Williams from the flower shop. Tom Canales and George Albert. We had a problem with 2 of the poles. We had a jury rig stuff to pull them down, and we were there on Saturday or Sunday, Phil? Sunday? Sunday. First Lieutenant Anthony Roberts, who was the National Guard, our guest speaker, emceed the whole thing. Bob, thank you for all your help. You took off and came down and helped. The police department were just great in helping. Township, thank you for putting up the money. I'm going to raise the money to pay you back.
When?
About a month. You made a commitment to me, so.
Yes, I will donate $100.
And we'll talk about that.
200?
I need a bill, so you can just let me know. And I want to thank, did I leave everybody off? Did I leave anybody out? Oh, excuse me. I probably will get kicked tonight. Thank my wife, who did the whole program and did everything, and she did a fabulous job. Thank you. And last, thank you to all the troops who served and also had the ultimate sacrifice. And those are the ones that this Memorial Day is all about. So thank you for the opportunity of running the parade. Maybe I'll do it again next year. And thank you, council, for letting us do it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr.
And
Tibbs?
thank you for organizing it all.
I'll be very brief. Johnny Tibbs, 25 Parkside. I just had a couple questions, first of all. Is that 2.5 million, is that a part of the Public Works budget? The roads and pavements?
It's the capital budget.
But is it a part of the Public Works budget?
No.
It's not, huh?
No, it goes to, well, where's the manager? He knows, it's his category.
The $2.5 million is part of our capital budget. It's not part of the operating costs for the Department of Public
And
Works.
whoever does that work is privatized out?
That's correct. That money was
Yeah.
contracted out.
Oh,
Yeah, you
okay.
do bids for it.
Maybe it should be considered that.
And by the way, we bond for it, something we need to get away from, but each year we only pay 5%. We do that for many years, but it's 5% a year.
Okay, answer my question. Second, another question. I didn't get no clarity on the Clean Communities Act, that the under $15,000. I didn't get no clarity the last time on how that money is to be used. Is that a part of the police department?
Clean Communities? No, the Clean Communities is part of our recycling and the roadside cleanup that we do. That's what that money funds.
Oh, that's what that.
It's tied to our county recycling program.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. The last time I was here, I wanted to ask you guys about some kids and some work programs to get them into. And I told you that I had 5 kids on a list here. I had on my paper a list. And 2 of those kids, I told you, got a job at the welfare department. And I had 3 left. One of them left, went down south, he's in school now. The other one, it shows you how close we are tied to the kids. The other one got in trouble the same night that I was here trying to get a job for him. That was the incident that happened in town with him and his mother. His mother got involved into a certain situation. But I'm trying to show you how close, and thank you, Councilman Ted Chase, because you had mentioned about the 3 kids looking for a job. I heard that when you were saying that. And it shows you how close we are to saving some of these kids' lives. That same night I was here trying to tell the kid, looking for a job, it's the same night he got in trouble. The other one, I got him a job at, thanks to Councilman Prasad, at another place, another business here in town. Now, first, another thing I want to do is basically to thank, to publicly thank, the committee wants to thank you, Councilman Francois, and especially to you, Councilman Prasad, for your assistance in taking the kids to the carnival. And we met a number of people at St. Matthias that was great help to us, and they supported us greatly. So did Mrs. O'Connell and Pat, Pat O'Connell, which is one of your zoning board members. They also gave us a contribution at the same time. And I'd be remiss not to mention the director of SCAP, Ms. Frida Odomo. She also contributed to some of the kids. We had about 12 or 13 kids, and they had a great time, and it was a very fortunate time for 4 of the kids for us to take them there, because at that time they really needed a little upness, because they was having some problems at home. So I want to thank you guys very, very much, and hopefully next year we get a hold of them and we take more kids and have a good time. Thank you very much. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak who has not spoken?
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one else come forward, I move that we close the public discussion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed for this meeting. Thank you very much for your input. Next, we have item number 10 on the agenda, council comments. And I guess we'll start this way. I think we started there.
We started this way last
Oh, I did? Okay. My memory's going. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
I can't believe they put you on the spot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to thank Bob LaCour and Nancy LaCour for organizing the parade. I would have been there if I hadn't been out of town. Sounds like it was really, really nice. Good job. And also, I think it was fabulous to see that demonstration of the Franklin High School Robotics Club. It's really nice to see all the hard work that our children are doing in the school system. It warms my heart to see our kids excel. So thank you, Councilman Wright, for inviting them and giving them that commendation.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Brian Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also would like to thank all those that put together the parade. Though I wasn't able to attend it, I was out of the town this weekend. It was very good, so Bob, great job to holding up and getting everybody involved to do it, because it always takes a lot of effort to do that. So, and it's a real nice event for our community. You know, in a special way, obviously, we thank the members of our armed forces, especially the families. There's such a sacrifice made by the families, you know, when either their father or their mother or a sibling goes away, they're left at home, especially when you're left in the situation of a single parent, regardless of whether it's the mom or the dad going away. That leaves a lot of pressure on the parent at home. And it's just something that unless you lived in that family, you really don't understand the strain and the stress and the pressure on those families. So there's really a tremendous sacrifice by those families. So whether, you know, regardless of whether you agree where servicemen and women should be sent or not, their families truly deserve a special place in our hearts for the sacrifice that they make. Additionally, I would like to again thank the Robotics Club for a wonderful demonstration here today. It's really great to see the youth, because a lot of times today we obviously in the news hear a lot of the things that go wrong with our youth. So when we can bring in youth here, and we thank Councilman Carl Wright for it, for the second year in a row, I believe that he's helped to coordinate that. To see that here is really a wonderful event for our township and for our community, because of the fact that, you know, we do televise it. A lot more people have the opportunity to see and hear about the fine things being done at our high school. Other than that, it's just a short report tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Ted Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On May 18th, I attended the annual program of the New Jersey Orators, which, as you probably know, is an organization dedicated to really improving the lives of some of our young people, mostly though not entirely African American, by training them in public speaking, which also gives them better writing skills and grammar and all of those things, which really makes them much better, make a better presentation for getting a job. This is a program which started in Somerset in 1985, where the Somerset chapter is the original chapter. There are now 17 of these chapters, including 2 in eastern Pennsylvania and 15 in New Jersey. So this program has grown wonderfully. And one of the founders, and still really the impelling spirit, is our own Jim Hunter. And I really wish more of the council would attend to, show their respect for his achievement in developing this wonderful program. A future thing, which again I'll encourage the council to attend, I have a message from John Luce that he will be leading a walk at Negri Napoti grasslands on June 1st, which is National Trails Day, from 9:30 to 11, unfortunately, I won't be there because I committed myself to go to a birding trip up Old Mine Road in northwestern New Jersey, but I would encourage anyone who has not been to the Negri-Napoti grasslands. The parking lot is off Skillman Lane, between the two right-angle turns, to go that. Negri-Napoti grasslands has become known throughout the state as a premier spot for birding, and a wonderful development of grassland habitats of butterflies also, and native grasses and flowering plants. So, and we have a little pond there, and a surprising variety of water birds visit the pond. We have a blind so that you can look at the birds from fairly close up without disturbing them. So I do hope some of you will, and the public in general, will attend this. And I think that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yes.
I'm
Councilman
sorry,
Regan,
may I forgot to mention an event that's coming up, because I'll be in real trouble if I don't. My wife, along with St. Matthias, is sponsoring a benefit concert Saturday night, June 1st, at the Franklin Middle School. And there's a very special concert. It's being done to raise money for a girls' school in Tanzania at the Emasoy Center. This girls' school we traveled to in August to visit. It's run to educate girls, Maasai girls generally, who don't have the opportunity to get an education. In fact, many of the girls are run away from their homes or are taken by their mother to this school for shelter so that they can get an education and go on to high school, and then hopefully get on to college. So again, this benefit concert is Saturday night at Franklin Middle School. Starts at 6:30. The contribution is $12, and all proceeds will go 100% to the school in Tanzania. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Phil Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, 4th of July, it was my honor to march and on 4th of July, thank you, Memorial Day. Oh, I'll march on 4th of July. So. It was my honor to march and be able to say a few words. But the real thanks go to the LaCourts, plural. Actually, the thanks goes to me for having to listen to Bob LaCourt for the last month and a half every day about what he's done and his angst over this. But all that angst is what gets it done. And anyone who's organized anything, you're basically powered by angst. And he certainly was. And it took a lot out of him, and he put a lot into it. These things do not just happen. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of dedication, a lot of time. Nancy, his wife, Mrs. LaCourt, designed the program, and what many people don't know is her father, a World War II veteran, had his heart set on being there and took ill that day, and she was basically a ping pong ball between him and the ceremonies, and you would not be able to tell it from the way the ceremony went. It went beautifully. There were at least 300 people at the end of the parade to watch the ceremony. We are lucky to have them both. Nancy LaCourt should wear a T-shirt, "Stop me before I volunteer again." Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Carl Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I would like to say thank you for putting up with me coming in late once again. The robotics program and the club at Franklin High School is outstanding, as you saw. I want to thank them for coming in. I want to thank the council for allowing me to bring them here to do a presentation, because sometimes, again, as Councilman Regan pointed out, we all hear bad things and never the good things that our students, our kids, your tax dollars pay for. in the school system. So I'm going to ask the council to indulge me again next year when I bring more students in from the high school and the grade schools so that you can see what they're doing. Now, I know the BOE has their own channel, and this is not the BOE channel, but I think you ought to be made aware of what we do here in Franklin Township. And once again, thank you, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Rajiv Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My congratulations to the LaCourts for a great Memorial Day parade. I think the robotics program reminds me of commencement. The way our deputy mayor was handing out the certificates, they were like diplomas, and I think we should make it an annual event out of it. And thank you to Mr. Carl Wright for bringing that. And I want to thank Phil Kramer on a great presentation about the budget. And at least it clarified the facts and the history. And one of the things that I'd like to request the township manager for is an estimate of a sidewalk from the elderly home on Pierce up to Elizabeth Avenue to the Miss Moravik, the mayor's former music teacher. No wonder he's tone deaf. But she's requesting that. She's homebound and unable to get. She has a wheelchair, motorized wheelchair, but there's no sidewalk for her to travel, and she doesn't want to take a chance on going up to Elizabeth Avenue to the stores. So there's a lot of people who are shut in, and we need to think about the seniors just as much as we think of the kids walking to school. This will impact their quality of life. Somerset County does not provide transportation for them, so they're really shut in, and so we need to do something about that. And so if we could get an estimate, at least we know what it would cost to do it and do it cheap, so if that's possible. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Prasad, as luck would have it, our township engineer is seated in the back of the room here, and so I'm sure he just heard that. So, Tom, if we could get a cost estimate on a sidewalk from Corman Communities at Pierce and Elizabeth up to the ShopRite shopping center area, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Great. So then we can figure out what we want to do and try to figure out some cost-effective way of getting the sidewalk put in. And beyond that, also, we should look at the idea of Little Rocky Hill and the water situation, the pipe situation. It is a safety issue, it's a fire hydrant issue, and all kinds of things, and that's something at least we should weigh the option of doing it right, and if we have to bond for it and pay for it over time, let's not make them stepchildren in this town. So let's at least do our part of finding out the facts and then making a decision on that, because they're also coming to me requesting that help, and so we should give it a fair chance of at least evaluating that option.
Could I respond to that?
Yeah.
Yes, Councilman Chase?
Yeah.
Councilman Prasad, you want to finish?
Yeah, if he wants to comment on that.
Well, I just wanted to respond on that last issue. I think it was last September we agreed to fund a study by CME Engineering for really to advise South Brunswick on about the proposal that Councilman Kramer really has put forward, which is partially rebuilding and partially connecting people to the South Brunswick main on the other side. And I understand that this report has been complete for some time. The township manager of South Brunswick has said to me that, well, you paid for it, you really deserve to get this report. But somehow South Brunswick won't release the report to us. I've asked the manager about this. I don't know whether it has
I
anything
can
new to
chime in on that.
report.
I actually got the report Friday. So I am just kind of digesting it, and I'll send it out to all council members. What I can tell you to this point is that it lacks some teeth. It doesn't make any specific recommendations to South Brunswick. It just kind of states in a very matter-of-fact way cost estimates to complete the water main in the two different fashions that were proposed. So I will get that out to all of council tomorrow. I have it in now electronic form, and you can take a look at it for yourself and make judgment as you see fit.
Right. Now, one thing, we have a water presentation here on June 4th, evening at 7 o'clock.
There is one scheduled during the day this Friday at 11 a.m. for those council members who have not seen the presentation and are available during the day. And I believe the second one is June 4th at 7 p.m. here as well.
So it's open to the public?
This is not open to the public. This is a council committee presentation.
Well, any recommendation or a plan for the water should also evaluate the option of bringing in Little Rocky Hill and what our costs would be to do that. It included in a comprehensive plan that we're trying to consider and have a long-term strategy on this whole thing.
The primary purpose of the presentation that council has already, some council members have already received, is to discuss the method to reduce our leakage and also a plan to maintain our system that we currently have and implement a maintenance program that is currently lacking so that we avoid issues like the Little Rocky Hill issue that we have now through a better maintenance program. So not to kill ruin the surprise at the end, but this is primarily focusing on a 5-year plan for maintenance and a 5-year plan to reduce the leakage of the system.
Okay. But can we look at the cost of buying the water from South Brunswick versus maybe New Brunswick and
all of those issues are the issues on purchase and how much it costs to purchase are things that are currently being reviewed by the Financial Oversight Committee, as well as a portion of it being included in the presentation. Again, not to steal the engineering department and public works department's thunder, but once you get a chance to sit through that presentation, I think you'll have a better understanding of where we're going.
Appreciate it.
Now, I will certainly, during the presentation, want to figure in what would be the effects of essentially supplying our water rather than South Brunswick's water to that line. If we reconstruct the line, we can also attach it to our system and service those people with the water that we buy at a lower price from either New Brunswick or New Jersey American Water instead of the very high price we pay to South Brunswick. I know it's only like 1% of our total usage, but there is a savings there. And also in terms of the whole question of our minimum purchase from where we purchase the water from New Jersey American Water and New Brunswick, if we can apply the Little Rocky Hill usage to those purchases, it actually, we can get a greater benefit out of savings by curing leaks.
Okay. And one last thing, and that is Johnny Tibbs has been working very diligently with the at-risk kids, and so I congratulate him for that effort and, any support we can give him, especially if it can be summer employment or something. that we can do for our kids, if it's part-timers for the public works projects or whatever. We may want to hire locally and get some of these kids productively employed. So with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Councilman James Fasenella.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention, thanks to Bob and Nancy for helping with the Memorial Day Parade. It was a great event. I believe Councilman Chase, Wright, and Kramer were there. I think we were marching together. I know the mayor was there. And it really was a nice event, not quite as long as prior years, but in a way I feel it more hit the spot, as they say. But in general, and the weather was good. It wasn't as hot as some years. Right. But it really was a nice event. The other thing I want to mention, Mayor, is we have a resolution tonight about us supporting, or a vote to see if we support Somerset County Planning Board's opposition to the COA decision. Without going into a lot of detail right now, I sit on New Jersey Housing Resource Center, and although they didn't formally take a position, I get the sense that most of the board and most housing advocates are not really happy with the outcome of what happened with the COA situation, and in general what's going on. Hopefully that's moving towards some reform that leaves the people in need as the winners. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Rosalind Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to add my thanks to the LaCourts and to Councilman Wright for what they've done. Certainly, you've had lots of praise heaped upon you this evening, and well-deserved. Thank you both groups, all three of you. I just have a few announcements and reminders with regard to the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council. This Saturday at Colonial Park, we are holding a Jubilee in the Park. It's going to be a fantastic event. Understand that anything that we put on, the Cultural Arts Council, is totally independent of any support from the township. We raise our own funds. We get an awful lot of volunteer talent. It's amazing how people come together and really want to participate in something like this. We're going to have two events in the park that day, one right across from the children's playground. That will have the focus of the Emancipation Proclamation. This was the 150th anniversary year. We'll have a reading of it. We'll have some discussion about slavery in New Jersey and in this area in particular. And then we'll have some wonderful gospel music and other singing groups there throughout the day. It runs from 11 o'clock until 4 o'clock. We'll have some volunteer tables. We'll have some food trucks available. Please come out and join us and support us. We're really working very hard on the behalf of the township, so your support and being there will be indicative of the sense that the township appreciates what we're doing. The other event that day, the same day, running from 11 until 4, is in the Rose Garden. That will be called Reframing the View. It's a rather unique approach. It's empty picture frames that you can hold up and use to take photographs of flowers as well as family or anything else you want to take photographs of. So please bring your cameras. We will also have entertainment there in the gazebo. And then in the back portion of the Rose Garden, we're going to have storytelling and face painting and other children's events. We're also going to have children's crafts in that area across from the children's playground. So a lot of time, a lot of effort went into this. Hopefully the weather will cooperate and you'll come out and enjoy the day with us. The other event that we have coming up in June is a storytelling for grown-ups. Which is a wonderful event. Unfortunately, it coincides with a family happening, and I won't be able to be there, but I'll be there in spirit. It's a great event. It's going to be at the Van Lusa Dam House. It starts at 2 o'clock. If you're interested and you would like to attend, certainly you can reach out to the clerk's office. Ginny Woodbury would be able to help you, or you can call me, 718 732-718-6942, and I can help you with the ticket and how to get there. There is a charge for that one. Most of our events are free, but this one, there are expenses, so we do have a small charge on this one. So we hope you will support that event also and show up and enjoy the things that we're doing for the township. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And now for my comments. Again, I'll reiterate, Mr. and Mrs. LaCour, thanks for the time, effort, blood, sweat, tears that went into the efforts for a Memorial Day parade, for those you honored. A couple weeks ago, I was at the Somerset County Business Partnership, their Person of the Year event. I paid my own way, no council or town money going into that, but I thought it was important because a lot of people from around the county were there. On a pseudo-personal note, the just prior president of the American Institute of CPAs, who happens to be a Somerset County resident, was being honored as their Citizen of the Year, so I wanted to be there. I think he is also president of the Somerset County Medical Center at this point, so that was very good. I think that was well put about the shut-ins and the people who need things. They need transportation, they need affordable housing, all those things should be, what we should be watching out for, helping those who are not able to help themselves. And that's all. I just wanted to keep it brief for my comments, nothing, again, try and keep the mayor's report more of a global nature, and this is more a little bit about the town. As always, I put various things about the town or just fun things on Facebook or follow me on Twitter during the storm. I put out real information. Other times it's just entertainment, or you never know when good things are going to come. And that concludes my comments. So now we go to item number 11, council discussion items. There is only one fiscal year 2014 Hamilton Street Special Improvement District budget request. This is only for the council to hear about the budget request for Hamilton Street. This is likely to be introduced in June, so this is just for our information. So, I know Councilman Vasanella, Councilman Wright both deal with that extensively. And certainly our manager, Mr. Vornlocker, does also. Councilman Wright?
You have something to say?
Well, just, Mayor, there's a meeting tomorrow where they're going to be reviewing quite a few issues. If the council has any questions concerning the budget, I think the executive director and president and officers would be best to answer it. I would answer anything that I'm aware of, as I'm sure Councilman Wright would, but...
I would ask that, where's our township manager? He's hiding back there somewhere. What I would like is to find out is we can bring the president, Michael Pappas, here sometime within the next 2 weeks or so when we have our next council meeting. That way he can update us on exactly what they're doing and how they're going to make do it as far as Hamilton Street. I know of a couple programs that they're starting, and one comes from the Somerset County. And we were picked, along with a couple other towns, as a test pilot program to see what we could do to spur business. Nora's shopping plaza on Hamilton Street will be our test case. We will refurbish that, put a couple things in there, new stores in, and we'll see how that goes. And for all those out there, the Hamilton Street Special District, we don't fund them. They fund themselves. They put a special tax on themselves to raise the money that they need to operate with. So keep that in mind when someone says we're spending our money on Hamilton Business District. That's not the case. So if possible, Mr. Township Manager, could you bring them down in?
Councilman Wright, I will be certain to extend the invitation to Mr. Pappas to attend our next council meeting.
You're a beautiful human being.
It's my understanding, Councilman, that he and/or Remy, the president, Mike's actually the executive director, I believe they plan on coming to present an update. I know they know that council wanted to hear about what's been going on, especially any of the headway made in areas that council people were asking about last year. So my understanding, he already plans on coming, but maybe we can lock in the exact date and structure of that presentation.
Sure thing, Councilman Vasanella. There we go.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Regan.
On this topic, I'd actually, as part of the presentation, because, if we recall last year, it was kind of, there were times when people were in here from Hamilton Street complaining about the tax, saying that they weren't being representative and was going back and forth. And we as a council supported them last year, they brought an executive director, paid him roughly $32,000 out of the 70-something thousand budget. I would like to see specific goals and objectives as to, what were their plans to accomplish and what they actually did. The last time they were in here, they made a request basically for some more police presence. But at this point, I would like to really see and understand fully what they accomplished this past year, given the fact that they've had a full year now with a paid executive director. Because if there's going to be people, residents or business people in the community who continue to not want that tax because they feel that they are not being representative, like there were complaints about their board meetings are not open, that they don't get communications done. There was a lot of different things. So just so that everyone's on the same page, because, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page as to hearing it both from them and also giving the opportunity for other business members who work in that area to also express any of their concerns with it.
Councilman, just to follow up on that, in your packet, you will find the goals for the Hamilton Business District for the year 2013. So going through that, you'll get a lot of update, a lot of information. Also, the request for the extra police, I don't want to get into specifics on that, but that was, we had police that were riding bikes and things of that nature. So coming forward, they wanted to find out how they can do it. And again, their money, what was going to happen for some of that. And yes, some of that money did come from the township, but moving forward, how they're going to do and what they're going to do is in your packet. So when they do come, you'll be able to ask pinpoint laser questions because they're there. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Chase?
I'd like to ask for technical assistance from someone more practiced with the iPad than me. I get the cover sheet saying FY 2014 Hamilton Street Special Improvement District Budget Request, attached please find, and nothing, but I can't get to any of these items.
He's not in the right, he's not in the split view. I don't think it's.
See, that's what I get.
Now, let's not all gang up on Professor Chase down there.
It's emergency surgery going on there.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
I'll help him after the meeting.
Okay?
I
Met the professor.
It's February.
I am a licensed nerd. I will help him after the,
If I get something that says printout, I get the same thing, or the cover sheet.
Okay, do you want to take a look at that?
Can we proceed?
Yeah, okay. Any other discussion on this?
do that too.
No.
And then because we will be seeing it anyway soon, right? Next meeting. Okay.
You can tell me how to get there again.
Okay, so we'll go on for now, because that will come before us. Okay.
I'm sorry?
I was going to say, we can go on if there's no other comments and
Right.
come before us next meeting. Yes,
Yeah,
Councilman Purcell.
I have, met with them, and they basically feel perception is reality, and if there is a perception out there that, there's a lot of crime in that area, and they need visibility of the police. So they were asking for increased police patrolling over there. And it's something that we don't control. It's the police chief that has, that's his domain, and we can't tell him how to do it. But if we can get creative in terms of creating some kind of perception, my personal belief is that, cameras are here to stay and are being implemented everywhere. And so we have to think about putting in some cameras. And they may be more cost-effective in the long run, at least doing some kind of a pilot. And that would be a deterrent to people that, that it's being monitored. And, so hopefully, the crime rate is not as high anyway, but we need to make sure that the perception changes.
Some things I can't
So
get.
that's where it is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. And it did seem like there was one version when you pulled up on the screen where you could find it, another version that you couldn't because I saw both of them. So anyway, we'll go on from there. We now have item number 12, approval of the minutes. So I discussed with Ms. McCarthy last minute earlier. Will that change? Should I come back?
We'll do it at the next meeting.
Okay, so that might be changed to item number 12, the minutes, so we'll come back to that on our next meeting. Thank you.
He may not be signed on.
So next we have item number 13, approval of the warrants. The warrants are the bills that we pay.
Not logged in.
So I'm trying to,
I move the warrants.
actually, I'm trying to find
The amount.
my amount.
Oh.
Pardon me. Okay, now it's my turn to be searching. Do you have an easily findable amount? You do?
Again, all I get
Oh,
is the
there it
cover
is.
sheet.
I'm sorry. So I was looking at the wrong place, pardon me. And thank you, Mr. Renaud. Okay, warrants in the amount of $2,920,392.95 on May 28th, 2013 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Is there motion to pay the warrants as read?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on payment of the warrants.
Councilman Chase?
Yes, although again, I can't see the actual warrants, all I get is the cover sheet.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We now come to item number 14, our ordinance hearings. Generally, ordinances go into law after 2 votes. There's a vote for introduction, and then usually the next meeting or two, there is a vote, a second vote, and if it passes that second time, it goes into law. Now, at that second vote, we have a public hearing on it, meaning anyone from the public can come and speak on that particular ordinance. So on these 3 ordinances, I'm going to ask if anyone wants to speak, but it'll only pertain to these 3 ordinances, our
Mayor.
general discussion. Yes.
Ordinance 4016-13's already had its public hearing. That was
Oh,
the one that
okay.
was tabled from April.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you very much. Okay. So, appreciate that. Okay. So 4016-13, that'll be the first one. Already had its public hearing, so we'll just go with the second vote. So we have item 14A on the agenda, ordinance 406-13. Some of the numbers may have been off in a prior version, if you have that for council. An ordinance to amend the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, by amending Chapter 330 entitled Stormwater Management to further incorporate stormwater management and stormwater best management practices for minor developments. This is a kind of a technical ordinance. Basically, it makes our rules a little bit more stringent than the states, where if someone builds, you cannot have your stormwater run off into another property, so preventing that on new developments. And the Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing was held as advertised, therefore, as the clerk said, we don't need one at this point. So is there a motion for a final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with the law?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add, and there was, I was the one that requested 2 meetings ago that this ordinance be tabled because there were some questions about this particular ordinance amendment that some council members had expressed to me as to what it would entail as far as new development was concerned here in town on some of our smaller, and this ordinance refers to it as minor development, as we're talking about, one lot developments here, where someone is building a house on a lot. I have the author of the amendment, our assistant engineer, Carl Hauk, and our township engineer here. If any council members should have questions about it and what this ordinance entails, they're here for that opportunity now.
We have yet to move, did we move and second it?
No.
No.
Okay.
Do you want, we can have a move in second first.
I'd just like...
Motion to pass.
Okay. Is that what you were doing?
What?
Were you moving the motion?
I would just like to ask, what were the questions that caused the delay?
Well,
I mean, it all seemed to me very
point of order.
straightforward.
Councilman Kramer.
So the way, if you read Robert's rules are, so we can get this moving along, is you move and second it, and if it is moved and seconded, then we can have a discussion.
Okay, I'll go back. Councilman Prasad.
Move.
Second.
To pass.
Okay, in a second. Thank you, Councilman Kramer. Now, Councilman Chase.
Sorry.
Okay, I just like to ask, what were the questions that caused this to be delayed? Because it looked to me to be very straightforward. A certain scale of development, basically the one lot development, would be asked to, directed to have a, what you call a dry well to deliver a lot of the runoff into, so that it would go into the ground rather than out into the street. And this is something, in fact, the Environmental Commission has frequently asked for in reviewing at least anything, say, that required a variance or required a site plan that came before it. So it seemed to me something very straightforward.
And
Mr. Bornlocker?
while I don't dispute that it might seem straightforward, Councilman, the questions that were asked of me is when we exceed the requirements of the state as far as the stormwater regulations are concerned, and are we placing an undue burden on the individual who's constructing a home for themselves or as part of their business on a single lot development? Is this, and when we do major subdivisions, the stormwater regulations require a stormwater management plan and a stormwater management system. However, on single lot developments, is it something that we should place that burden on the developer or the home builder who's building their own home as far as the additional cost required for what might be a minor cost but could be a major cost depending on how their property perks? So that was the reason why it was brought to my attention. The question was raised, and I felt that if there was questions that council might have towards the adoption of this ordinance, that they should have an opportunity to speak with the people who are our professionals and deal with it on a daily basis. Certainly, I personally have received complaints from residents about stormwater runoff from an adjoining property, and I think that that certainly is what this ordinance is intended to address, and I'm sure that if, as I look down the dais, I see a lot of nodding heads, there are a number of others, so that was the reason why.
So can we ask questions now?
Councilman Vasanella, sure.
Okay, I think I want to answer these questions, but I'm not as technically knowledgeable as some of the other people up here perhaps on this issue. So first thing, I just wanted to ask, is this for new construction or existing buildings, houses?
It is for new inflow housing.
Okay, now, what do you, inflow?
Inflow, infill.
Infill, oh, okay.
Inflow.
Okay, I'm sorry, I know what infill, I didn't know what inflow. So what about, say, someone is going to put a 800-foot addition onto their house, an existing single-family home. Is that considered new, or is that grandfathered in under the existing structure, both with and without variance?
Correct. If they're adding less than 1,000 square feet of new impervious to their lot, they're exempt.
Adding less than 1,000 feet?
Correct.
Square feet?
Square feet.
Okay. Whether they need a variance or not, they're exempt?
Correct.
If you need, say, 1,100 square feet?
Then they would have to do some form of measure to hold the additional impervious on their lot, preventing any kind of runoff onto the existing adjacent property owners.
Whether they need a variance or not, if they're over that 1,000 square foot threshold by 1 foot, they have to go through the same process as a new developer?
Correct. We review, the engineering department reviews all building permit applications.
Okay. For now, that was the,
Okay. May I ask on that, and again, it's our town engineer, Mr. Zelnick, appreciate you coming. Let's say someone is building 1,000 square feet, we're just saying it's a 35 by 35 addition, and you're just about there. So is, they have to be sure that none of the extra runoff would go towards their neighbor, and they might have to do swales or perk test of their own, or what would, can you give me a brief? And as I understand, I asked our manager earlier, it can't run off into the street. You've got to basically stay on your property.
Right, the increase has to stay on the site. It can't run into the street, it can't flood a neighbor's property, and the bigger concern, more so than the street, is flooding a neighbor.
Okay.
You know, they're going into an existing neighborhood.
And what you would require would be proportional to the additional impervious surface, not to the whole existing house if it were an addition.
Correct, it's just the increased impervious coverage of the lot.
Mayor,
Okay,
follow up to
Councilman
Councilman.
Vasanella?
So if somebody was building that addition that was referred to, that example, you would not be looking at or figuring into your resolution as to what they need to do? You wouldn't be looking at any of the existing square footage or, you know, where water is going or not?
No, for an addition going on a house, it would just be the additional increase.
Don't talk to me.
Councilman Kramer?
So I own 5 acres and put up 1,000 square foot addition. I have to do this, that's fine, but some people own, you know, are an R10, and it's going to have a lot more effect. I'm wondering why you didn't design this to be more percentage of impervious rather than...
We have R7 zoning sites that currently have dry wells. They come in, they get a variance for a house that's maybe 25 feet wide or whatever, and they put a dry well in.
Right, no, and I know you can engineer all this. I'm just wondering why you put the threshold in an absolute number rather than a percentage.
I took a look at other townships around the state that are doing this. Specifically, we modeled this, I think it was Bedminster or Bernard's, where they've been very successful with it in basically existing houses, adjacent houses, preventing any runoff. And it works not only with the intensity and in the design criteria that we incorporated, but we felt 1,000, if you're putting a house in, usually it's a 2,500, 3,000 square foot house, where you'll have a footprint of 1,250. So a new house would fall into that criteria, but a smaller addition or something would be exempt.
So I see what you were going for. And the way I read this, it's really all, you're basically specifying design criteria.
Correct.
But I didn't see anything, and I don't know if there's any way to measure the effect. So let's say someone follows the design criteria and lo and behold, there's still runoff onto another person's property. Do you, I guess, I always wondered, and I had this problem, you may have, with the constituent, I won't name the road, but you may remember it, because I was out there a number of times, and your department was very helpful, but how do you measure it? How do you know? How do you know what was there before? And we just had a big storm, so of course there's going to be runoff, and maybe so, et cetera.
I mean, the goal of this is the pre-existing condition, the existing house, would remain. Okay, that was approved from whatever time in the past it was approved. The additional runoff, the roof leaders would be connected to a dry well, a rain garden, or some type of stormwater measure that would not change any of the runoff on the property. That's the goal, based on the perk test, based on design criteria. And we did it based on we propose it on not a 100-year storm, not a 1-year storm, a balance in the middle, and that's where the 3-inch intensity of rainstorm comes in.
And what do you do for an addition to a driveway? I mean, that would still be impervious.
There's something built in there where they could count it as roof, and if they want to take a section, widen their driveway, they could take a section of their existing roof and tie that into the dry well to balance it out.
Okay.
Okay. Others? Yes, Councilwoman Francois.
So in your waivers and exception section, you have in here that waivers would be granted based on exceptional hardship. Is that something you guys would make that determination? And what would you base that on?
Based on their submission, if the site is if it doesn't perk at all, and there's no other means to do a rain garden or something, depending on the size, there's multiple criteria that we have to look into. We can't just say, yes, the site doesn't work. They're going to have to provide some documentation, not a lot, to enable us to grant that waiver.
If you're sitting on diabase.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Well, at least we've made it worth your while coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, this has been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, so, Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 14A, 401-13, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have the second of our
Thank you.
ordinance second readings. It is item 4019-3.
You can let them know they're welcome to stay.
Item 14B on the agenda.
Their salary.
It's an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly, Chapter 62, Salaries and Compensation, Section 62-4, Annual Compensation for Managerial and Exempt Employees, 62-6, Annual Base Salaries for Police Sergeants and Lieutenants, 62-7, Annual Longevity Payments for Police Sergeants and Lieutenants, 62-8, Annual Compensation for Police Patrol Officer, 62-9, Annual Longevity Payments for police patrol officer, 62-10, annual salary scale for 911, 911 telecommunications and fire prevention officers, 62-11, annual longevity for white-collar collective bargaining employees, 62-15, computation of hourly wages for part-time employees, and 62-16, computation of hourly wages for part-time seasonal employees. This ordinance basically brings salaries in our salary ordinance in line with our bargaining unit agreements. It entails no raises, there's no increase in salaries inherent in this. It's just kind of a housekeeping to make our ordinances, again, in line with our bargaining units and our contracts. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. A public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
See no one come forward, Mayor? Motion to close the portion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed. For this ordinance, thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and
So moved.
publication in accordance with law?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, Madam Clerk,
Is this choking you up, Mayor?
yes, this is very emotional for me. Please.
Parting with that money.
Yeah.
Do
It's
you
got
need a
to do
few
with money,
moments?
yeah. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 14B, ordinance 4019-13, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Thanks for bearing with me. Next, we have the third and final of our ordinance hearings. Well, second votes, let's say. Item 14C on the agenda, ordinance number 4020-13, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of a right-of-way deed from 5 Belmont Associates LLC in connection with Block 528.06, Lot 5.05, which is more commonly known as 125 Belmont Drive, docket number PLN 12-00001. It's a standard right-of-way ordinance for the township. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. A public hearing is in order. Motion for public hearing on this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
See no one come forward, Mayor? A motion to close the public portion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Thank you very much. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 14C, ordinance 4020-13, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have item 15A, ordinance introduction, of which we only have one this evening, is ordinance number 4021-13, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 112, Development regarding regulation of residential uses in certain zones. And this basically removes building townhouses in NBR, Neighborhood Business Residential Underlying Zone, RC, Renaissance Commercial, and GB, general business. So for the most part, they'll stay more business-oriented without the townhouse condo developments within there. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, June 25th, 2013, at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Discussion.
Councilman Regan?
Yes, could someone explain, like, okay, we're doing this, we're changing something, and why it looks like it came from the redevelopment agency, like, why the change now?
Mr. Vornlocker or Councilman Chase, either one of you?
Redevelopment.
I'll defer to Councilman Chase first.
Well, I have to understand, I looked at this, and I must have understood it when the planning board approved it and when the land use committee approved it, but I don't understand it now. I think it's, it's basically to remove certain possibilities within the redevelopment area, although it's abolishing one whole category of zoning, the multifamily residential. So I assumed that was only a category allowed within the redevelopment area. And I know this came from the redevelopment commission and is presumably to try to get more business development.
Okay. Councilman Prasad?
Yeah, there's a whole trend towards mixed-use housing. We have commercial at the ground level and then housing like we have some of our newer developments. Does this forbid something like that? Because if that's the case, it defeats the purpose and the trend of having multi-family housing, which would be apartments, et cetera, in those areas.
This, as it has been explained to me, my understanding is that this particular ordinance amendment does not remove that possibility from those areas that have been identified in our master plan as benefiting from that type of development, specifically in the redevelopment areas that the township has along Renaissance redevelopment along Route 27 and also along the Hamilton Street corridor, where there are specific zoning regulations apart from this. This ordinance is to remove high-density housing from those areas that are specifically zoned as commercial. The idea here being that we have areas of the town such as Easton Avenue and Somerset Street and Route 27 that are zoned specifically for neighborhood business or zoned for general business, but yet there's this exemption that allows for high-density townhouses as of right development, and that's not what the master plan calls for. So that's why this ordinance amendment was proposed.
Okay, so that was the key phrase. So this ordinance is being introduced at this time to align with our master plan.
That's correct, and if you, I'm trying to scroll as I'm talking here. Further, the ordinance was specifically addressed and recommended in a master plan amendment adopted by the planning board in 2012. That is part of the cover memo for this particular ordinance amendment. It's on page 248 of your packet, towards the bottom, just above the summary. This ordinance was discussed with the council's Land Use and Open Space Committee and was similarly recommended for adoption. So it is to put our development ordinance in line with the master plan amendment done by the planning board in 2012.
Thank you, Township Manager. Bob. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
Mayor?
Thank you. Councilman Passanella.
Question for, I guess, Lou. This would not affect presently permitted projects, even if they have not broke ground yet?
Correct.
Okay.
Has an approval, then.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, one,
Councilman Chase?
if I may, one putative project that is in our COA plan, but the developer has never really gone forward with it, is the proposed Penrose, I think, apartment development behind what's generally known as John's Plaza on Hamilton Street. And of course, that's not in the redevelopment area, and I know it is currently allowed by the zoning. I just want to be sure that it doesn't affect that, because someday, we've been removing some minor contributions to our COA plan, but that would be a much larger contribution, and in fact, we have committed money from our housing trust fund to that if they ever go ahead and if the governor doesn't succeed in stealing it. So I just want to be sure that that is still is not affected by this ordinance, because that's something that it has not gotten to the point of site plan approval or anything like that.
Okay. So as I understand it, those areas on Hamilton Street still could have retail on the bottom and apartments above. However,
yeah,
if someone buys out a commercial development on Easton Avenue, such as ShopRite, you can't go put in apartments and condos there. It'll still be commercial. Not that that's in the works at all, don't get me wrong, but just as an example. Okay. There's no ShopRite, I mean Stop and Shop.
The old ShopRite, Mayor.
I was saying, Mayor, you're dating yourself. There was at one time a ShopRite on Easton Avenue, but that was many, many years ago.
At the first full-size
Thank
grocery store, I believe, in the history of Franklin.
Okay, anything else on this item? Okay. Ms. McCarthy, so please pull the council on the introduction, item 15A, ordinance 4021-13, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have our consent agenda. The consent agenda items of basically a routine nature that are voted on in one vote. It is any council person's prerogative to pull an item off for a separate vote. Items put on the agenda after a certain time will be listed under item 17, which you'll see later as resolutions voted on separately. I will say, our agenda and the items, the ordinances, resolutions, you can go online and see them, usually the weekend before. They are there, and you can follow along at the meeting and give us your input. So items on the agenda, A through H, under item 16, as listed in on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there discussion or motion for the consent agenda?
Motion for the consent agenda.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the consent agenda.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have item 17, resolutions voted on separately. There are 3. And so, first one, support Somerset County's opposition to the May 1st, 2013 COA decision. The second, authorize automatic renewal and or amendment of cooperation agreements with Somerset County for continued participation in the Home Investment Partnership Program for 2014 to 2016. And the third, fireworks display at the Palace in June 2013. So, is there a motion? We can do these separately or all together. So On the first one, is there motion for that one or for all of them?
For all of them collectively.
Oh, pardon me.
Motion for all of them collectively.
Seconded.
Okay. Moved and seconded? It's fine, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion? All right, Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 17, A, B, and C resolutions voted on separately.
I'm sorry.
Oh, pardon me, Councilman Kramer.
Are we are we voting to vote on them all together, or we are voting on the actual?
Motion to move, that was motion to adopt them,
All three.
all three.
Okay.
But did you want them separate?
No, I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure whether we were
Okay.
going to be.
I was clarifying.
on them separately.
Okay. Okay, you're going to vote on all three at once, if no discussion. Ms. McCarthy, yeah, please poll the council.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We next have item number 18, old business, 2013 board and commission vacancies. Is there a nomination for any positions? Okay, if not, we have an executive session, and as different than our usual executive sessions, usually we go into executive session and I say that when we come out, we will only vote to come out of executive session and then adjourn. After our executive session tonight, we may take action on an item, so we will not close down the taping just yet. However, there will be an item added to the executive session, and I was discussing this, but our attorney wanted to put on Kings Row also. And for executive session, that's where the council meets in private. There's usually only a few cases where we can do that, such as personnel matters, contract negotiations, attorney-client privilege. When the subject of those executive sessions no longer needs to be kept private, the minutes of those meetings will be made public. So what we have is item 19A on the agenda, Resolution 13-266, executive session resolution for the items of ABC, that's Alcoholic Beverage Commission, disciplinary matter, and another one, Kings Row, litigation. Is there motion for the resolution for executive session?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Kramer. pardon me.
So rather than have the videographer stay, which be a few extra bucks to the town, couldn't we just splice audio at the end of the video? And people watching at this point would realize that, okay, it'll switch to audio, so we move on that, and he gets to go home, and then we save a buck or two.
Okay. I see Ms. McCarthy being slightly uncomfortable.
You don't like
Yes,
that?
but we need a software patch to do it.
No, that part's easy, but if you're uncomfortable from an open meetings thing,
Doesn't affect the Open Public Meetings Act.
I mean, if they can do it, I guess that's fine.
I know I can do it. If I can do it, they can do it.
Okay.
Okay. Do we need a consensus on that?
What's the question?
Councilman Kramer,
I'm sorry, I heard the question. So what's the proposed resolution? Is that we stop it?
I guess that we stop it and try and somehow put the audio into there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Oh.
okay. Is, consensus
Our
or the
township
other?
attorney hasn't said anything.
The township
Yeah,
attorney said-
I just don't want to be,
Well, it doesn't violate
Tampering.
open public records, and
No,
we're
you're
not
not,
required to video anyway.
you're not required by the Open Public Meetings Act to video the meetings anyway, so however it is that you choose to put it out is fine.
Okay.
If it's doable,
Thank
let's
you.
do it.
Okay. Is that the, part, Councilman Regan?
We're not required for video, so I think it's
Okay.
okay.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
No more
we all have
jokes.
a
He's been
technical
making jokes all night.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, if that's the general consensus, then what we will do is, somehow technologically, try and put that audio into the video with a nice background, I hope. So at this point, we're going to go into executive session. The video portion will stop, but you will hear the audio of what we are going to do when we come out of executive session. The public is still entitled to stay here during the whole time till our adjournment. If they want to do that, but the taping will stop. But again, that little piece will be on there. So thank you very much.